What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from ActMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today we're going to talk about The Room Next Door. This is Pedro Almodovar's selection this year. It is being released by Sony's Pictures Classics. Will it get Oscar nominations? Depends on who you listen to, who you're talking to. It's got some festival heat behind it. People love Pedro Almodovar, and he has gotten definitely, his films have landed in the Oscars before, so there's a lot of thought here that with this being his English language debut, sure, that's a logical case. He just got Penelope Cruz in sort of surprisingly just a couple years ago in Best Actress, so who knows? Could it happen if enough people like Pedro? Sure. I did watch this film without audio description. It was provided to me for my consideration, which I think, we love to have a talk. I'd love to find the other blind voters in these groups and just all be like, there are blind and visually impaired people in other voting groups. Wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for you to include. Anyway, it probably will have audio description at some point. Sony Pictures Classics is not, I can't imagine they don't put audio description on this. It'd be so weird. And I did get to see this before its theatrical release, so I don't even have a way of checking. Basically it would just be festival buzz, and even festivals are not consistent in having audio description. So, it's spotty. So who knows? This is Tilda Swinton, Julianne Moore, Alessandro Nivola, and John Tuturro. Sort of like the four main cast members. And really, it's the ladies. The showcase is the ladies. I know Alessandro and John Tuturro show up, but there's a reason nobody's talking about their performances. Is because they're really here just to support these two ladies. Honestly, the film could have just been really just Tilda and Julianne and been better for it. There are times where we break away and we show some backstory, and Julianne leaves so she can have a life outside of his house and talk to John Tuturro. Pretty certain they had sex at one time. Although, since I'm blind and there was no audio description, it could have been anybody having sex, I suppose. But I'm insinuating they hook up. So what this film really is Julianne Moore sort of reconnects with an old friend after a long time, played by Tilda Swinton, who is in her final stages. She's battling cancer, not looking good. And they used to be really good friends, and just time got away from them, time and space. And, but, so they start catching up, and eventually Tilda lets her know sort of what her plan is, which is, she wants to, her greatest fear is dying and then nobody's there, and nobody finds her and that kind of thing. She just kind of dies, and she doesn't want to be alone when she dies, sort of thing. And so she asks Julianne if she'd be there for her. And Julianne's, of course, afraid of doing that. She's like, I don't even know. So she has to think about it. Eventually, she agrees to be present as Tilda continues her decline. This is why people are talking about Tilda Swinton over Julianne Moore, is because Julianne Moore isn't dying in this, but Tilda is. So if you're ever wondering, if you ever listen to anybody else who's talking about Oscar buzz for this film and they always put Tilda above Julianne, it's not necessarily because Julianne Moore doesn't give a great performance. It's because Tilda has the benefit of also having to show her character dying. But I actually really love Julianne Moore here. For reasons we'll continue to talk about. We have, they go to a house. Eventually Tilda sort of talks about her grander plan, which is, the treatment is not working. And one day she does have sort of like a final plan, if you will, that she can enact herself. If you pick up what I'm putting down. So she tells her, you know, if you ever see my door shut, you'll know. I'm going to keep my door open, but if it's ever shut, when you wake up, you'll know. So, but other than that, they just have lots of conversations. They come in and out. Julianne is clearly reckoning with a lot of things, and you know, I always kind of felt like there was like a shoe that was going to drop. You know, and you kind of wait for that. You know, like I was waiting for Tilda to reveal that there was some sort of grand plan, because we talk about the history and we talk about these guys, and I'm like, is there something that Julianne did that Tilda is asking her to be here as almost like a punishment? But no, it's feels like this genuine friendship that is rekindling just at the worst possible time in somebody's life. So, it's fine. Like that's the thing about this is the biggest problem with The Room Next Door is that you can find better things from everybody. Obviously the boys, like there's literally a reason nobody's talking about these boys. I mean, they could have been anybody. Any two dudes could have been in this movie to support. So if you're excited for Alessandro or John Tuturro, I mean, there's nothing. They really have nothing really to do. They're fine because they're Alessandro, Nivola, and John Tuturro, so they're great actors. But man, I mean, compared to what the women have, it's just night and day. Like, I can't imagine. So, it's like talking about Edgar Ramirez in Amelia Perez, probably. Like, all these women are being talked about. And you're like, why isn't Edgar Ramirez? And it's like, well, there's a reason. So, yeah. So Tilda, the interesting thing about Tilda is she's in a bunch of films this year. She's in The End, and she's also in Problemista, in addition to this, and probably something else that I've forgotten, because this woman works. She's a worker. And it's funny how I keep hearing the Saoirse Ronan thing, where they're like, oh my god, she could be nominated for the Outrun and Blitz, and that would be amazing if she got 2 nominations. It's like, she's young. You know who could get 2 nominations if people remembered the other movies? She was in Tilda Swinton. I really like her this year in Problemista. I actually prefer her performance in Problemista to this. I think while the deference is we think, somebody who's thinking about their final stages in life and sitting there and sort of looking off. And granted, yes, I didn't have the audio descriptions to bring in the scenes where Pedro just kind of backs off and we're sort of staring at nothing and there's no dialogue. So I don't know what's there. And Tilda could be doing a lot of really silent work that is just gorgeous, and bringing it all in. But we can't just give everybody an Oscar nomination because they're dying in a movie. It's like, well, it was like giving every straight actor an Oscar nomination for playing a gay man. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, you can't, that's not the challenge. That's not the challenge. The challenge is what do you bring to it, other than, because so many people have done this dying on camera, that it can't just be that. And if anything, I actually found Julianne Moore's character to have more weight to it, because she reacts to things in certain ways that I just found to be interesting, the way her choices, especially coming out of May, December, where she again wasn't, I mean, I thought she was strong in May, December. Not my favorite performance in that movie, but I mean, it's funny how Charles Melton was the takeaway for many people, but I thought she was good in May, December. And here, I think, again, she's sort of undervalued and underrated in a lot of her reaction moments. She has a couple scenes where she's really sort of rethinking her life choices. and what brought her to this moment. And there's some stuff towards the end, which I won't spoil because this movie isn't even out yet. So I'm not an asshole. Like, you've gotten enough from me. You'll figure out where the movie goes from here if you want. I mean, or you can just wait for the movie to come out. But there's some stuff towards the end. Um, there's an interrogation sequence that she has that is infuriating, and it made me want to, like, it. There's a character in here who comes in, and I wanted to have an award called "This Fucking Guy" because that whole scene, that's all I was thinking. I must have said that stuff to myself in my head like 8 times. Like, every time he talked, I was like, "This fucking guy, man." Like, for like the douchiest character in a movie, like, that needs to be an award. This dude would win it. And I realized that that's exactly what Pedro's trying to do there, and he's absolutely pushing it. And it's almost too agenda because it's almost too much. And there's a line that comes in when another character joins Julianne Moore. I'm really trying not to spoil anything. When another character joins Julianne Moore and is like, "Yeah, it's really unfortunate that you ran into a blank." And and I was like, "Okay, so you're trying to say something here," but I also just saw it as being like the worst possible person to be in that situation at that time, regardless of the implications you then thrust upon it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought the scene worked without the context given by the friend that joins Julianne Moore after that sequence. So I probably would have cut that line as much as I'm sure Pedro did not take. He's like, "Who is this random dude?" He does not give me notes. I'm like, but I think it's like we can draw the own conclusion to that. You didn't need to reinforce it. And by reinforcing it, it felt very sort of like, well, I want you, in case you didn't pick up what I'm putting down, here's the line that reinforces. And it's like, dude, you're Pedro Almodovar. Like, nuance should be like part of your master and craft at this point. It should be, like, part of your toolbox is you just pull nuance out, like people are pulling out like hammers and screwdrivers and you're like, "Would you like nuance?" Here it is. So yeah, so like I said, it's not a perfect film, it's not my favorite film, and it's really hard to get behind and say either of these actresses are necessarily in their best performances or that they're the best performances of the year. Would I be mad if this film showed up anywhere? No, because I don't feel like that this film is that far removed from that conversation either. There were some other performances this year where I'm like, well, I like the film, but clearly not. No. Um, I just think this film falls just a little bit short. I think this film's going to fall a little bit short. I think it's probably not going to get any nominations, but I also would not be upset if it did. I did find it, and this is all from picking up just from conversation, because remember, again, I'm blind, so I don't know what Pedro's trying to do here. And it was a little confusing because, again, we have some contextual stuff where we're going through the past. Tilda is talking about her daughter and why they're estranged, and the situation with the daughter wants to know who the father was, and Tilda's trying to explain it to Julianne, and so we get like these flashbacks and this like story thing, and I was trying to follow it a little bit, and it did get a little rough. So I'll admit that a little bit of my coloring has to do with the lack of accessibility in how I view this movie, and it being a little underwhelming for me. And also there are times when Pedro, because he's a great director, wants to just take the camera and look at something without people talking. But in those scenes, I don't know what we're looking at. I do not know what is in that scene and how relevant it is, how gorgeous it is. Like, I was thinking about, she rented this house, right? But I don't actually know how beautiful it is. Like, where did she pick this house? Does it have a great view? What's the view? What's the house? Is the house nice? Is it cool? Is it a cool house? I mean, I kept thinking about things. These are all the things that I don't think about. And also more nuance in the as Tilda Swinton's character continues to progress downward, uh, how does that, you know, I mean, what kind of choices are we making to show that she's not getting any better? You know, I think that would have helped too. So just a lot of things that could have tied it all together and brought it all in. Just not. And then like we do leave and we go other places. Sometimes Julianne Moore would be with John Tuturro, and I'm like, I don't know where we are. I get that you're not with Tilda right now, but I do not know where you are. So like there definitely were moments like that where I wasn't 100% sure where everybody was. Anyway, yeah, so Room Next Door is, I'm going to say, from a blind and visually impaired standpoint, I would not recommend. It's like lightly unwatchable. It's not great to watch. The thing is, it's very conversational anyway in nature, but there are, like I said, there are all these other things that it just wouldn't make for a good experience for a blind person to try to watch. But it is a highly conversational piece. However, there are plenty of times for audio description, so I'm not going to give it a pass. I'm not going to say that audio description would not have made this a better experience for a blind person, because that's false. Sometimes I give a documentary that pass because it's a talking head documentary, and it's like, where would you put the audio description in, and how much would there really realistically be here? Not a lot, you know, very little audio description. And I definitely sat through documentaries that are like that, where nobody stops talking and you get these little like interjections of audio description. So it becomes like the best use of your time. Here, like I said, he's got shots. He's got shots of just, I'm just looking. And I would love to know what Pedro Almodovar, one of the greatest living directors, is looking at. As far as general vibes, I don't know. I'm guessing this is probably like a B plus, maybe an A minus. Could also be a B. So that's why I would say B plus in the middle for me right now. But again, with audio description, it could go up. So that is not a solid grade. That is just trying to give you vibes of where my head's at with this film. I don't think it would fall up. I don't think it would fly all the way to an A. I don't think putting audio description on this is going to put this in my top 10 or top 25 or whatever of the year. But I don't know, maybe. But I don't know. Be interesting, but I'd love to see it again with audio description someday, maybe. Just so I can get that, because a lot of Pedro stuff is just not. A lot of my Pedro Almodovar knowledge is from before I lost my vision, so I haven't been able to see his recent stuff because it's not audio described. So I feel like I haven't seen his work in like an ungodly amount of time, because I don't even think I saw some of his work right before losing my vision. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm thinking like I'm going all the way back and being like All About My Mother, you know, like I'm like, I need, so I would really love to know how much he's grown as a filmmaker in the last, I don't know how many years since the last time I saw a Almodovar movie. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will see you guys on the other side.